Welcome, creators. Sit yourselves down by the crackling hearth fire and open your ears and your minds. I'm Holistic Dungeon Master, and in this video, I'm going to show you the best approach if you wish to work smarter, not harder, while crafting an organic and compelling campaign that will captivate your players and always leave them hungry for the next session. How many times have you spent hours and hours slaving away over a hot spiral notepad, teasing out the structure of your campaign? Towns, societies, NPCs, encounters, MacGuffins, quests, dungeons, and pages upon pages of lore. The whole thing, from beginning to middle to end. And at the end of session 1, the party they're ignoring all of your hard work and heading in the exact opposite direction to the one that will bring them to where you've planned this amazing, epic adventure for them. You probably already know this, but the party will always find that direction. It's not their fault. They can't help it. They are curious, incorrigible, and distractible scamps, and we need to take that into account. After all, we don't want to railroad the party back in the direction you want them to go. And luckily for you, me, and all DMs everywhere, there's a better way. The Spiral Out method is a wonderfully gooey and malleable device that enables your campaign to develop naturally with your players' choices and the events that occur in-game as a direct result of those choices. You simply have to prep your campaign one session at a time, using the events of the previous session to spiral out the narrative from that point. That's right, the time you were most prepared to make the choices necessary to prep your next session is when the story of the previous one is finished. And think about it, with this approach, when very little is set in stone, then you are totally free to use the awesome, funny, stupid, and outrageous events brought about by the party to craft the next adventure. This ties into my video on letting your players feel that their characters are important in the world. With this method, it's almost effortless to spin the narrative around the PC's actions. And when your players experience this, they will feel fully immersed in your world and that their actions matter. This means that instead of designing each town, NPC, and shop that you intend to use in your campaign, and trust me, I know it's very, very tempting to do so, but instead you start with the first town that your party will meet in. Build it out. Maybe the first dungeon, if your party are the kind of party who like to grab a quest and run with it right away. And, we all know parties like that. But that's okay. Then, based on their actions, decisions, and interactions in these places, then you craft the next one. And they'll move on to there, and they'll wreak havoc, probably. And then you move on to the next, and the next, the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. And as you can see, your world begins to expand from a single point as it spirals outward, ever larger. The party will feel like they are totally free to go where they choose, and yet, wherever they do go, your adventure awaits them. You're tailoring your campaign to the natural flow of your party because your campaign and its elements are fluid, not tied down and rigid. And this is such a powerful tool because it virtually eliminates any need for jarring railroading and at the same time increases the immersion of your players. So powerful. So now you're wondering how a campaign without any structure could work. How would it make sense? How would the villains carry out their evil plots? And how would the story remain coherent? All wonderful questions. I'd like you to think of our fluid, spiral out campaign structure as a river flowing freely. Every river runs, but it needs something to run over. Sturdy river stones that only occasionally shift and move when the current of the river is powerful enough to do so. Just like that river, our malleable campaign needs something rigid to run over. A structure that, just like the river stones, only moves when something in the story, significant enough to change it, occurs. This is where those deep, creative parts of our Dungeon Master minds come in. The parts that relish spending hours crafting lore, NPCs, dastardly villains and their villainous plans. Your creativity is the limit with regards to what should remain structured in your spiral out campaign. But a great place to start are fronts. Fronts are powers that be that have their own motivations and goals within your campaign. For example, villains, clashing factions, NPC adventuring parties, my personal favorite, rivals. Create 2 or 3 fronts that each have their own ideals, goals, methods, and resources. This is something rigid that you can call upon no matter what your party are doing so that you can keep the story coherent and meaningful. When prepping each session, ask yourself what each of these fronts are doing to achieve these goals, how or if their methods will interfere with or assist the players, and what events are occurring as a result of these plans. Keep these fronts rigid as long as it makes sense. You never know, after all, the party could do or cause something so significant that it has a profound effect on one or more of these fronts. And just like our river stones, they only move when the current is strong enough to do so. Leave a comment down below with your example of a river stone. These are the basics of a spiral out campaign structure. I hope you're inspired to try this method when it comes to your campaign, and I'd really love to hear your experience with it in the comments down below. Maybe you know a DM who could benefit from this method, and share this video with them. Thanks so much again for watching all the way to the end. Please like, subscribe, hit that bell to be notified, and remember, this world needs good DMs.